Welcome back to Azure Gaming. I'm 𝐷IRKVAL. Today we're going to talk about the best Neural Cloud units to aim for when re-rolling or starting out. The tier list is based on CBD data, so it'll most likely change when the game launches. The units are categorized into 5 classes, namely Medic, Fighter, Sniper, Guardian, and Specialist. We're going to recommend units for each of the classes and rank them from S tier to B tier, and with SP as the best in certain situations. But before we get into it, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, ring that notification bell to never miss another Azure Gaming video. Alright, let's get into the list. Alright, so here are the medics. Recommended unit for medics are Nanaka. For the early game, she is S tier, really good. She has excellent area of effect healing, only surpassed by Jin. Jin is another healer, but he's not in the S tier. Or talk about him later. She has unique, powerful stat buffs for her allies. It also procs function cards. Often, function cards are like equipment you put on your units. She starts at 3-star with a strong ultimate and is an idol. So her character portrait is nice as she's visually appealing. Endgame, she is absolutely rocking, absolutely S plus tier. Her ultimate can prevent one-shots, so protects your party from being one-shot by bosses, and scales excellently in the endgame also, so she's not gonna fall off. And when using 2 medics, you lose less DPS with Nanaka. So for example, you're gonna build your team with 2 medics. That slot for the second medic would be a DPS, but if you put Nanaka and another medic there, you would lose less DPS if you put another medic instead of Nanaka. Alright, next medic we're going to talk about is Florence. Early game, she's kind of situational, so we'll put her in SP tier. She provides massive damage reduction to heal target. Doesn't actually need to have rarity raised to be useful, so you can just keep her at base rarity at 3-star. Charm is hit or miss, but it doesn't hurt if it procs. Relatively decent at 3-star, but she has a strong DPS oriented ultimate instead of a medic or healing based ultimate. So at endgame, she is also situationally good. Damage reduction is very useful for hard content, so you can stack up the damage reduction with a healing. Provide her with a good defender and or guardian, you're good to go. Her ultimate is also good for buff stacking that one carry you have on your team. Next unit is Persica. Early game is also S tier, so if you're looking for your healer, Nanaka, Persica is another alternative. She requires 5-star materials that are giving it to you for free, so you can rank her up early or awaken her early. Very simple but uniquely powerful kit. She can revive can almost be irreplaceable for some content, so she can revive your characters. Some content might require her in the party, so you can take advantage of her revive skill. Endgame, she's also S tier, excellent candidate for the CDR reset flower tiles. Remains relevant throughout the entire game, so not a bad investment if you do invest on her. And 5-star materials are given to you for free, so not that much of an investment. Easy target for feeding batteries too in battle for heals, and she can also scale to the point where she fully heals anyone 0 to 100. Next unit is Jin. We talked about him earlier. He's B plus tier in the early game. Highest HP of all the medics in the game. And proc function cards often similar to Nanaka. Starts at 3-star with a decent healing ultimate. So this one is not offensive ultimate. It's a healing ultimate. He kind of falls off or powers up at endgame. A tier now instead of B plus. It's not fairly terrible to use by himself, but not very great early, so he requires a bit of investment. Alright, Jesse. Early game is B tier, provides unique debuff prevention and removal. Definitely can't solo heal in harder content, and starts at 1-star and takes a while to get her running, so you need to invest her. Probably just skip her and just focus on your other powerful healers. And endgame is kind of SP tier. She can hard carry you through certain specific content and pairs well with a certain unit. Alright, next is Imhotep. Early game is B tier. Surprisingly good synergy with DPS medic functions. She is also an AoE healer who works well in a 2 medic team. So you can put Nanaka and Imhotep in one team and you're good to go. Funny ultimate for people who likes playing chess and not the easiest to use effectively. Endgame is B plus tier. Doesn't turbo scale like higher tier medics. And the cons is Nanaka exists. So if you have Nanaka, you probably don't need Imhotep because she does everything he does better. Alright, Choco. Early game is C tier. Choco makes chocolate. She's very cute. Saves you in chapter 3 story. And then, wait. Endgame is C tier too. Alright, so Panacea. Early game is C tier, and a coming event gives you Frags Eraser to 4-star. So if you want to invest in her, you can get free materials for her. And then her healing is kind of a gamble or RNG based, and heals for a low amount. So endgame is also C tier. She's not gonna scale up. Healing is inconsistent and scales poorly with CDR. Alright, we're going to move on to fighter units now. So Aki is her early game S tier unit. She is a crit god with insane burst damage. Does exactly what you need fighters to do, which is deal high damage. Starts at 3-star with an extremely satisfying ultimate. Prints friendship points like no other. So if you put her in your friend slot, she can give you friendship points. Alright, endgame is also S tier, so she doesn't fall down as much. Scales very well with investment, but get power creep. Obviously, more units in the future will come that will power creep her. Good choice to level in the current CBT or maybe on when the game launches. But on game release, you might just want to use a friend Aki instead. So you shouldn't target Aki. Maybe target a healer like Nanaka. And use your resources on other characters because you can just rent her from other players. V is early game, SP tier, the only range fighter in the game, ignores enemy evasion and stealth, surprisingly versatile due to above trait, and starts at 3-star with a strong ultimate. The cons are V can't crit. Endgame is also SP tier, scales a bit poorly due to not being pure attack, and technically can crit if you get a specific function set, which massively boosts her DPS. Alright, and next is Betty, A plus tier, insane damage scaling thanks to her passive. Skill gives her super armor. Super armor means she is immune to crowd control. Good synergy with fighter functions, and you would need to dismantle her in this game. The cons to her Betty is extremely annoying victory voice line. Endgame, she scales up to S tier. Useful kit that scales well into endgame, doesn't compete with other fighters for algorithms, thus can be raised with less of an opportunity cost. So you can just raise her without cannibalizing other fighters' algorithms. Alright, Chelsea, early game is A tier. Takes some saves coming to make her passive work. Ditto for her active. She's very position dependent and basically a really good character if you enjoy the auto chess board planning part of Neural Cloud. She starts at 1-star and takes a while to get her running, so you need to invest a bit on her to get her up to potential. Endgame, she scales up to S tier, requires brain cells to use, so you need to actually think. Unlike Aki, who just always does damage no matter what, not all fields or boards are compatible with her skill set, so you probably she's kind of situational at endgame, and she has bad single target damage. Next is Fern, SP tier, unique crowd control and displacement feature, basically removes the enemy frontline instantly. Does like no damage, but her summon is really slow, low DPS, and eats your medic precious healing during fights. Fern scales up to S tier when endgame. Extremely stage and enemy dependent, so and racing rarity doesn't help much. The dragon affected by functions, uses in fights when her dragon gets one tapped, and kind of subpar ultimate compared to many other units. Next is Sol. Early game is B tier. Actually pretty good early because you get free fragments. Can off tank a little bit thanks to her passive, team synergy with Fresnel, whom you might be using, and best girl if you don't skip the story. Endgame is she's not gonna be useful. Poor endgame scaling. Ideally you want a guardian to tank instead of Sol. Never get buffed in CN. All right. Next is Centaur Ricey. Early game is B tier, unique. Crowd control and knockback can be used to great effect. Starts at 3-star with a fairly usable single target ultimate. Ultimate is a skill shot that can be blocked. At endgame, B tier doesn't compete with other fighters for algorithms and thus can be raised with less opportunity cost. Alright, moving on to snipers. Hubble. Early game is S tier. Will carry you through story, especially in the closed beta. Excellent, well-rounded AoE sniper, good damage scaling, and top-of-the-line base stats. Start at 3-star with a very useful ultimate as crowd control ultimate. Can be played in a large number of various team comps that reinforce her strengths differently. At endgame, she's still S tier. Hybrid scaling keeps her from reaching number 1 spot, so she's not a pure scaling attacker. Sniper. Alright, next is Max. Our early game is A+ tier. True damage and insane attack speed. Scales well with calculation power. However, the skills takes a long time to cast and slow travel speed. Starts at 1-star and takes a while to get her running. At endgame, she rises up to S tier. To get really the most out of her skill, you have to position her in the front lines. I know it's kind of counterintuitive. Sniper in the front lines. Abuse enemy targeting priority to keep Max safe. So they target closest units first, then Guardian, Fighter, Specialist, Sniper, and Medic. Alright, next is Fresnel. Early game is A+ tier. Free starter character that scales well into the end game, so we can just invest in Fresnel at the start of the game. Can de-aggro herself when attacked. Mechanically strong skill and satisfying basic attack. Ultimate feels a bit weak in terms of damage. At endgame, she scales back down to A tier instead of A+. Terrain in later stages is not always conductive to her line shape AoE skill and falls off a bit later due to hybrid scaling. Lamb. Early game is A- tier. Unique attack speed and crit conversion passive. Fixed rate of fire and skill can inherently crit. Targets highest HP enemy with her skill. At endgame, she also rises up to SS tier. So you want to pair her with another AoE sniper. Requires specialized sets of algorithm to shine, and once you max her out, her DPS is unmatched. So Lamb needs a bit of investment, but she is god tier at endgame. Her skill can one-tap tanks, and her ulti can clear the entire stage in one hit. Next is Twigs. Early game A+ tier. Highest theoretical AoE damage in the game. Single target is somewhat average, not great for bosses, and difficult to use just like Chelsea. Endgame, she raises up to S tier. Recommended pairing with a single target sniper like Simo or Lamb. Alright, so next is Simo. Early game is A+ tier. Highest DPS sniper you get for free. Ultimate stealth can save you in sticky situations. Skill can inherently crit. Very unique kit that can surprisingly be useful, and starts at 1-star and takes a while to get him running. End game is S tier. You will want to pair him with an AoE sniper. Is never really the best at anything but works fine. So Simo is a jack of all trades. Earhart. Early game is A- tier. She gets on an airplane, essentially gains a damage steroid for the duration of her skill. Has super armor, skill can inherently crit, and extremely dependent on critting to work. So not great early game. End game is S tier. She really needs those rarity increases for algorithm space. Requires a lot of babying to reach max potential. And lastly is Oxygen. Early game is B tier. You may need someone else to knock enemies onto Octogen's bombs, and incredibly high damage ultimate will kills himself. Alright, next is Guardians. For the Guardians, you want to target Croc. Early game is S tier, given a 3-star for free. So built-in reusable taunt, good sustain with shield and self-heal, and you pretty much don't need to level any other tank aside from Croc. Endgame is S tier again, never got power crept, ultimate is kinda bad. Evelyn, A plus tier, excellent damage reduction, ult is a powerful reposition and team damage reduction. Anti-melee tank, so more CC potential against melee enemies. Scales well with proper algorithms, and she has a passive CC heal is effectively useless against ranged. Alright, so endgame is S tier. Her damage reduction can come in handy late game when enemies become more threatening and they deal more damage. Alright, next is Sochun, B tier, formerly known as Camellia. Kit is specialized against calculation damage and has some crowd control. At endgame, goes to B tier again since Croc exists. Alright, next is Yanni. Our early game is situational or SP tier. Lets you pull in and focus fire one enemy backliner instantly. Useful regardless of rarity, so you don't need to up the rarity. Extremely durable versus physical damage if rarity is raised. So it doesn't really have skills that help with tanking. Endgame, still SP tier, can become less useful late game versus a lot of threats, and some stages are not friendly to his passive skills. Next is Bonnie. Early game is B tier, starts low, low stats means small shields, starts at 1 star and takes a while to get her running, entirely reliant on strengths of her shields. And endgame is A plus tier, massive stacking shields once built properly, scales well until late game if you got here, pairs well with high healing comps. Alright, and next is Zion. Early game is SP tier, damage cut is theoretically good, but it is based on low percentage of her stats. Endgame, B tier. Croc exists. That's it for 𝐷𝐷𝐿 tier list. Alright, so in summary, we're gonna go back to our list. So for medics, you want to target Nanaka or maybe Persica if you want. For fighters, get Aki, but just target some other character because Aki might be just you can just borrow a friend Aki instead of having your own. Alright, for snipers, you want Hubble there at S tier. And for guardians, we don't need to target anyone. Croc is given to us for free. Alright, so that's it for the 𝐷𝐷𝐿 tier list. Make sure to follow the channel and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.